Hi, so I'm here with Don Staffin, who is responsible for the relationships that ShipServ has with the software companies we work with. Now, Don, we have long-standing relationships with over 20 software companies, some of which we're showing on the screen right now. Now, what exactly does that mean?
Our relationships with the software companies are built around, first and foremost, an integration. And what this means is that both companies have invested the time and money into creating a duplicatable integration between that software system and ShipServ, so that each time a new buyer signs on with that software system, it isn't a major IT project, but instead it's more of a configuration.
Okay, now you said each time a new buyer signs on. Of course, it doesn't have to be signing on with the software company for the first time. It could be an existing customer of that software company, right?
That's correct. In fact, that's one of the real benefits, is that a ship owner who has been using a particular system for years just creates this plug into our system, and then suddenly the world of ShipServ is open to all of their users.
Okay, so that's a great word, the plug-in that you described, because as far as the purchaser is concerned, they continue to use the existing software company that they are happy with, their existing systems. ShipServ is plugged in to that existing system, and then they get the advantages of ShipServ.
That's correct. So the end user continues to do many of the same functions that they've been doing. We remove some menial administrative tasks that have been taking up a lot of time, and then we leverage some of the capabilities of ShipServ to be able to enhance their experience around the partner system.
So Don, you talked a little earlier about the menial processes and how ShipServ plugin helps with that. So in terms of those transactions, can you describe what changes before and after ShipServ?
Well, if you think about the traditional way that transactions have been sent, typically the purchasing system will create some kind of a PDF, and that PDF gets emailed to a supplier who then processes it and emails something back to the buyer, who then has to enter the information back into the system. And so what we do first and foremost is we break down that wall between the buyer and the supplier and make the information flow seamlessly between the two. So retyping on the part of the buyer disappears. At the same time, we add some monitoring tools so that the buyer knows what the status of the transaction is, so that they know if there's been any changes to the transaction along the way, so that it creates a nice tight overlay on their existing purchasing system with information coming in and out much more efficiently.
So Don, that is where ShipServ can benefit significantly in terms of transaction efficiency. Another area of benefit is where a purchaser might have the challenge of finding a supplier in a new port or for an item that is quite a rare item. How does ShipServ help in those instances?
We know that a small but definite percentage of all spend during the year is up for grabs, either because of the reasons that you stated. Maybe they took on a new ship, different trading routes, or what have you. So in those cases, we have two tools at the disposal of the buyer. One, of course, is the ShipServ.com website, where they can come and they can search for a particular product, brand, port, category of supply, service, etc. But the other is that we have the ability within the ShipServ connection itself for the buyer on the fly to ask ShipServ for suggestions of suppliers to add to RFQs. So it's extremely efficient within the existing process, and ShipServ takes over the recommendation. Now, of course, the decision on which supplier to use is still up to the buyer, but this generates a larger universe of possibilities in those situations where the buyer is looking for more possibilities.
And Don, finally, the third area of benefit is more strategic. It's to do with reporting and analytics. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it breaks down into two main areas. One is, as a buyer, I want to be able to analyze my relationship with specific suppliers. So I want to look at it in terms of responsiveness, competitiveness, how it affects cycle time, things like that. And so when I sit down with that supplier, we can have a meaningful conversation to improve the relationship, whether it's in terms of price, cycle time, or whatever. But the second issue is, okay, as an organization, how are we doing compared to the marketplace? And this is where ShipServ is uniquely qualified to bring that type of information. Because with $3.5 billion of annual trade across so many thousands of ships and so many tens of thousands of suppliers, we're able to aggregate this information and show a buyer, for example, am I generally more or less price competitive or time sensitive compared to the market as a whole? How does my cycle time compare to the market as a whole? How about the quality of information that I'm putting out or the quality of information that I'm getting back? And that's extremely valuable information that allows me to benchmark my activities against the market as a whole.
Okay, so you've described a suite of analytics tools that buyers have access to because of their presence on the ShipServ platform.
Yes, and the beauty of this is that it's marine specific. So, so for example, Google Analytics gives you much information about websites that you might have as a supplier, but ShipServ's analytics focus specifically on the marine industry and on the relationships between the buyers and the suppliers and the performance of the transactions in that market space. So it's like the power of a Google Analytics specifically in the marine industry.
So to wrap up, we started talking about the software companies and ship operators that used one of the software companies but didn't have the ShipServ plugin. That plugin, which will access all of the benefits and advantages we talked about in this discussion, how easy is it to get that plugin?
It depends on the software company.
Right.
Some software companies have invested more or less. A few of our software partners, the hookup can be done in a matter of hours. But and in others it can be days or a few weeks. But the beauty of these relationships is, in no case is it a giant IT project that has to be done with third-party integrators and taking months and months with teams of people on both sides. It really is a well-traveled path where two pieces of software that know how to speak to each other are connected.
I mean, how many of these integrations has ShipServ done in the last 18 years?
Dozens.
Right.
Dozens, and more than 100, certainly.
So the next step, if a ship owner or manager is looking at this video, if they want to investigate more, ask some more questions, what's the next step?
Of course they can call ShipServ, but if they ask their software partner about a ShipServ integration, then their software provider should be able to answer those questions as well. And then they can hear from both sides how easy it is to hook the two systems together.
Great. Don, thanks very much.